Let me make sure all the things are working before I get too far. This one. Sorry, I'm just making sure the stream's set up in different places here. So that is the right one for today. Awesome. Okay, I think we're good to go. This is going to be live coding in C#. You're going to get to see me fumble around, which is always exciting. Makes me nervous, obviously, but that's part of it. So today I want to look at using Quartz.net. And Quartz.net is a job scheduling library. I used it a little bit before, but if I'm being totally transparent, not super confidently. So I want to spend some time. What better way? What better way to go learn something than to go do it live and embarrass yourself, right? So I'm gonna do that. I just have it pulled up on my screen here. I have one of my newsletter issues from it's the 29th issue, so that's almost half a year ago. I wrote a little bit about using Quartz.net, but I think the thing that I really want to explore today about Quartz.net is like this persistent store. So even when I used it before, it was kind of just to trigger things. So you can set things up. Hey, Vlad on LinkedIn, you can set Quartz.net up to basically be a periodic trigger. And I think that's all I was using it for. And the context was that we were building a Blazor application and I needed something that could wake up periodically and be a trigger. So that was sort of the extent that I used it and kind of struggled through. There's some weird dependency injection things, like the job itself couldn't have dependencies passed in. You'd have to use you have to pass them by this weird parameter collection thing. So anyway, I think I had that working a little bit, but the persistent store part was totally just neglected, and I wanted to spend time on that today. So I do have a use case that I want to explore in another project, so I'm not going to pull that up. We're going to start from scratch, but I have a use case in another project where I want to have this idea of persistence for these jobs that I want to run. So I figured, okay, let's, instead of trying to integrate it, because I'd have to go refactor a lot of code, instead of trying to go refactor all of it, just to be in a position where I'm like, okay, how do I fit this in? I'd much rather go, okay, how does this work? Let me go explore how this works, and then I can go make a decision afterwards to go refactor the other code in the other project. So that's the plan. I'll probably switch over to Visual Studio in just a second. I want to have a little disclaimer though. I was streaming last night on Sunday. I had to get another COVID booster shot, and honestly, I thought the first 24 hours, I know the first sleep is usually I have a pretty rough sleep, very feverish, and I thought that last night I would be totally in the clear, but I had the same issue last night, so I really haven't slept well. And right now my fever's gone, but I don't know if I start to stream if I'm a little bit, and if I'll have to drop because I'm feeling feverish. So I just wanted to be transparent that if I have to end the stream a little bit early, it's entirely possible if my Advil and stuff is wearing off. So let me. I'm just making a Visual Studio project. You don't have to watch me do this part, so I'm just going to keep blabbing as I do it. But I want to make a Visual Studio project, and I'm going to call it Quartz Net Example. And I think I am going to make this an ASP.NET Core, just so that that's what it's going to be dropped into in the other place. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that I'm going to have to pull up the documentation, but I think there's some hookup that they have in Quartz.net for specifically for ASP.NET Core. So we'll get that going. Thanks, Jack. I appreciate that. It's funny. I remember I woke up this morning and I think I set my alarm for 6, right? And this stream is at 7 a.m. my time. So set my alarm for 6, and I just remember I woke up at 6 and I must have just like snoozed my alarm because I woke up again at 6:30, and I was like, "Uh-oh, like you got to get out of bed because you're going to be on a stream soon." And then I was like, "Oh, do I do it? Like you didn't sleep well." And I figured, okay, like you feel okay right now, like try it. And we'll see. So it just sucks. I don't like I've had COVID once before and it was pretty bad. But the entire time, like as long as I stayed on top of taking Advil, my fever was totally fine. It was the only symptom I had, just really bad fever. But anytime I get a booster, it's just like having COVID. So it's pretty awful. Okay, I do have Visual Studio pulled up. Let me get my stuff switched over here so you can see my screen. It should be this button right here. So I do have an ASP.NET Core web app here. Like I said, I'm going to pull the documentation up though. So here's my blog where I had basically some of the stuff for being able to go. I'll zoom in a little bit. What we were doing in the blog post was that this was to go basically fetch social media statistics from the internet. I never finished this project. It might be fun to go back and complete it. But the idea was that we had plugins, and for different social media providers, we needed a job that would be responsible for periodically polling and fetching your social media statistics, like how many followers you have on Twitter, that kind of thing. So if we're looking at this code here, the part that doesn't really matter for us is like this, the for each loop. That's just, that's just going to go grab the plugins, but we don't have those. And then I think this part in particular was just about scheduling jobs, right? So if we have a quick look at what's going on here, hey Enzo on Twitter, we do have a look here. I think this is the part where I was saying when you're doing dependence, well, there is no dependency injection for the jobs themselves. So you have to use this kind of parameter passing thing going on here. So you set the job data and then you have to use this dictionary to go read them back out. So kind of weird, but it's how it works, I guess. Hello on Kick from Turkey. Good to see you. And then this trigger builder, this is going to be interesting because I don't know all the options. But we can figure out what we want for a trigger. Maybe I'll do like just to see it working. We could do a schedule, or like a what do they call it? Not like a fire and forget kind of thing. But the thing that I'm really interested in is I want to be able to have this go to persistent storage. And I didn't do any of that in my my blog article. So Quartz.net, and then I think it's ADO job store example. So they have a RAM job store, but the ADO one I think is what we want to play with here. So let me zoom in again, sorry. So to use ADO job store, you must first create a set of database tables for Quartz to use. You can find table creation scripts. Okay, so interesting. They come with the scripts, and they prefix all of them so they stand out. So I'm going to use SQLite. And why is SQLite? Why not something else? Because I don't want to go set up a whole other database. I have for my actual project where I do want to incorporate this, I already have a MySQL database. So I can make it work for SQLite. I'll make it work for SQLite, and then I'll port it over after. But so this is interesting. I'm going to have to see where the scripts actually are. Like, are they just in the, what's it called? Sorry. In the GitHub? We'll have to see, because if it's a NuGet package, I don't know if the NuGet package, like, are they a resource embedded in the NuGet package or something? It's kind of weird. Or I thought I saw someone, I did a quick search for this last night. I thought someone had like a NuGet package that was basically like a provider almost for Quartz.net, and they had the different databases. So maybe there is like another, we'll check in a second, but maybe there's a NuGet package that someone's put these scripts into code and we can pull them. So, but let's see. So one more thing to note is these scripts, all the tables start with that. So Quartz trigger, sure. Quartz job detail. This prefix can be anything you'd like as long as you inform what the prefix is. Okay. Oh, interesting. Using different prefixes may be useful for creating multiple sets of tables for multiple scheduler instances within the same database. So I don't, certainly for today, we don't need that, but I don't think in my own personal project I have that going on. Hello, Emporium guy from Twitch. Good to see you. So currently the only option, okay, this is different from, I didn't realize this. I saw this the other day when I was going to look up Quartz again, but I didn't realize Quartz is a Java thing. Big surprise, right? So very cool. I didn't realize that. Last piece of the puzzle, setting up data source from which ADO job store can get connections to your database. So this is something I remember reading, and I was like, I'm not a huge fan of having to do this, but if we see this code, like, this isn't C# code. And I know it's not C# code because of specifically this. Like, that's not C# syntax. So I think we have to go set up a weird configuration file, and like, I'm not I'm kind of against having to do that. I want to just write that in code and not mess around with a config file. So I'm a little nervous that when we go to start doing this, I'm going to have to be messing around with, I don't like config files because I have to mess around with them. So instead of just having something work in code and having the compiler tell me what's up, it's like, nope, like you have the wrong syntax, and like, or you go to run it and you don't realize it's not working because there was no validation on the syntax. So I'm not looking forward to that part, but we'll see. So next, selected iDriver delegate. Okay. This feels like it's like sort of complex just for getting this to work, but I wonder if it's a lot more simple when we go to do it. Quartz.net will issue a warning if you're using the default std ADO delegate. It has poor performance when you have a lot of triggers. So okay, it warns you. But see, like, this is more like this just weird config file stuff. So like I said, I'm not looking forward to that part. Connection string. Okay. Configuration reference. 519 errors still haunt me. So see this Quartz.net configuration reference, like, what? Do they have an example? This is the thing, like, I need an example to go work from. I'm just kind of poking around to go see if this is the big bit. Yeah. Unfortunately, right? Configuration, this is the big bit. Very configurable library. I mean, that's good. But I think this is what I want. Like, I want code to do it. So maybe we are okay. Maybe this is the reference I want. Like, I don't want SQL Server, but oh, this might be generic SQL, so that's okay. So maybe that is fine. Maybe we can do it all in code. And here's configuration files. Okay. And like this is what I don't like, right? Like there's a whole separate config file. No. No, thank you. It's one more thing I don't want to mess around with. So I'm hoping that we can do everything we need. But it looks like not. Like, job initialization plugin handles our XML reading without it, defaults are required. Like, and then it's telling you which files to load. Okay, we'll see. We'll mess around with some code. I don't read documentation a lot because I find that I'm like, all the stuff I've already read, it's already left my head. I'd rather kind of dive into code and mess around. But I wanted to double check to see. I'm hoping that we can like mostly use this kind of syntax here to set things up. And the fact that I see use persistent store makes me think that we can hopefully get away with doing this in code. So let's jump back to Visual Studio. Pull that out of the way. I haven't had caffeine yet this morning either. That's unlike me. Side note, in my caffeine reduction journey, I am down from like 12 to 1500 milligrams. That's up to 1.5 grams of caffeine a day, down to 400 milligrams, which is, it's a big difference. So we're happy about that. Okay, so minimal API here. In fact, I don't really care about this. I want to start trimming up some of this code just so I don't have distractions on my screen. So we'll call it hello. Okay, really simple application. We'll zoom in there. And now let's go check. By the way, I'm realizing now, usually, like when I'm making YouTube videos, I go to 1080p and all of the other text becomes a lot bigger. Right now, I'm using 1/4 of my monitor to be able to show you what's on my screen. So if some of the text is super small, I apologize, but hopefully it's the stuff that it doesn't really matter for you to go looking at. So quartz.net. So here we go. They have one. There's a package specifically for dependency injection. That's cool. I'm just quickly having a scan. Nice. Mass transit. How does this, that's interesting. How does this integrate with mass transit? Because, and sorry that's catching me off guard. I know that in my other project, I'm going to get to the point where I need mass transit for being able to queue stuff up. So very interesting. I wonder if we can leverage mass transit to go, like if we wanted to add something to a queue that basically it's just backed by Quartz, which, I mean, that's exactly what I'm going to want, but I don't think we're going to get to that today because I want to focus on the persistent store part. So let's get this installed. I think I'm going to need to grab SQLite. Man, that's a lot. 244 million downloads. I'm just double checking. I want to make sure I grab one that has the unmanaged stuff as well. This package does not provide an API which is friendly to app developers. Why? What's going on here? Is this the one I want? Microsoft Data SQLite Core? This package does not include the copy of it, so that's not what I want. Why is this hard to find? Do I need to grab the PCL one and then... So this one says does contain it. It's by this. Why there's like no downloads of this one? I mean, sorry, don't get me wrong. It's like almost 5 million downloads, but the others have like over 100 million. But I think this one might be the one. This batteries included bundle brings SQLite raw core and the necessary stuff. But I've never used this one. I've always used whatever like system data SQLite. Microsoft Data SQLite. And what's this one? Core. So I think this is the one I want. If we look at the dependencies, and sorry, the text is probably small and my stupid face is blocking it so you can't even see it. One sec, I just realized. No, not that. Okay, let me move this over. Sorry, I know the text is small, but This is a bit of a pain in the butt when we're picking a SQLite provider, but I just wanted to show you that I'm trying to find one that has the unmanaged DLLs in it, because SQLite is not written in C#. It has, I think, C++ DLLs. So if we look at the dependencies here, we can see that the dependencies, it has SQLite PCL raw bundle. It literally has this one here. It has this one inside of it, right? And then it also has Microsoft Data SQLite Core. So it's funny, the first one I went to go pick was Microsoft Data SQLite Core. That's the one I wanted to grab, but then it's not going to have the unmanaged DLLs in it. So this is the one I want because it has both. So I think we found it. Let's go install that. And again, just to clarify, it's going to give us the managed API that we want, but also it comes with the SQLite DLLs for the actual driver. So I think we're good at this point. Let me go pull this back over there. Cool. Okay. Now we just go make it work, right? I'm pulling this back up so you can see. But what I want to do is basically take that code. I don't think I want to grab the XML scheduling configuration. No thanks. So a lot of comments. Holy comments. Okay, so create, but what are the properties? Did they say what properties were? You can have base. Oh, I wonder. Interesting. So that's, if I'm reading this properly, there's like this Fluent API, which is nice. But then I think that I can probably have basically a key value pair set up for any of the properties that I want to work with. So that would be very cool. So I don't need to go mess around. Okay. I'll get rid of var because I know var bothers people. How about folks in the chat that have access to chat, if you're not watching the recorded version of this? If you're a C# developer, do you like using var or do you stay away from using var? Curious to hear your thoughts. I get all sorts of different answers on this usually when I ask, so use persistent store. This is the one I am curious about. So the connection string that we want. How does this work? Data source. I think that's all we have to do for SQLite. I love using var. Nice. Okay. I don't want to bias anyone yet, so I'm very curious to see what others have to say. Maybe because I'm lazy. See, run away from var. It looks like JavaScript. Everyone's got different opinions about var. It's always interesting to see. So where was this code? Scheduler. Oh, we have to call scheduler start. But I haven't set it up to specifically use SQLite though. Like that didn't come up anywhere. Job stores. Let's go back to here. Okay. SQLite only shows up 2 times on this page, and it's right here. So it's supported. So I think this is where I have to do, if I go back up here, these properties, can I do this directly? Okay, one sec. That's Copilot giving me a hint. Right, can I drop these types of things in? Whoa, whoa, whoa. This is someone's Copilot read someone's configuration. Look at that. Data source provider. See, this is what I want here. But I guess I can use the Fluent API, but see, there's no line number for it, sorry, but it says data source default provider SQL Server. So I'm very curious. Why doesn't this work? Okay, whatever on that. What's going on? Why did that... Like, comment out this line? Why is it... What's going on? What? Sorry, I don't know why it's freaking out. I'm pretty sure I copied this code directly. Build scheduler needs to be at the end, that's why. Okay. It's weird. It's scheduler start, but it's not marked as async. So I didn't even know that I had to await it. But did they have an await on theirs? Oh, they do. Okay, good. But okay. Data. No. Ah, look at that. Use SQLite. So it looks like they have it built in. So did I not even need to add a package for SQLite? Maybe not. Well, what happens if we go run this? Probably nothing exciting, but... That took far longer than it should have. Ah, yes. Okay. Great. That's what I was hoping to see. Oh boy. So I have to find system data SQLite, and I grabbed whatever package I picked is not the okay one, so that's a pain in the butt. Let's go back to here. Maybe it's just this one. It's funny. I'm literally just live streaming this, being like, yeah, it must be this one, like not even really paying attention. Yeah, this is generally how I develop stuff, and probably most of the time why I get caught up in things where I'm like, why doesn't this work? That's because I'm not paying a lot of attention. So I don't want Microsoft Data SQLite. I want System Data SQLite. Now, let's see if that works. And it might complain again. It might be a version thing at this point. Oh, so we got further. Nice. You must define object serializer using configuration key. Oh, that was weird. The text was so big, now it's tiny. Sorry if you can't read this. I can't read this. Out of the box supported values are JSON and binary. JSON doesn't suffer from versioning as much as binary serialization, but you cannot use it if you already... So why can't... Yeah, okay, that's what this line was. Why can't I use this? Oops. It's like they offer it, but it's like, oh, I didn't read that before. There you go, right? It's right here. And again, apparently I'm demonstrating to all of you that my skill set doesn't include actually reading. But there is a whole NuGet package for it, so oh, wild. Only 903 downloads. Really? That's weird. I have like personal NuGet packages that have more downloads than that. And I thought those are just being counted because my like build systems are pulling them down and using them. 903 is not a lot at all. Okay. Does this work? Let's see. And when I say work, by the way, I'm just like, I want it to not crash. SQLite cannot be used as clustered mode. Okay, I don't care. Let me turn this off. Oh my goodness. I'm really hoping this is one of those things that once it's configured and working, I never have to think about it again. But this is like pretty infuriating. I get that it's a configurable library, but oh man, okay. Database schema validation failed. Make sure you've created the database tables. Aha. So I was hoping that we would get it to create them for us, but apparently not. There's no like create schema. So we do want, I want to like explicitly say this because I think that that's important, that it should do that. I wonder, sorry, I see this one up here. I know it's unrelated. I'm just very curious what this is. Ah, the time span in which a trigger must have. Interesting. That's the default anyway. I was just really curious what it meant by misfire. Like, when does that actually happen? What does it mean? Okay, so we got to go get those scripts. And I'm going to read this time. Where were those scripts? Database DB tables directory. Database. I guess it was this one. Table SQLite. Look at that. Nice. Wow. Cool. Okay, let's get the raw version of that. I don't know what cheap viewers is about, but that sounds like it's probably spam. I probably wouldn't click that. Yeah, anyway, sorry, I'm blocking that person from chat. I don't have moderators, and that seemed like a sketchy link, so I apologize if I just totally blew you out of the chat, but seemed kind of weird. I'd rather be more aggressive and kick people out. Okay, so what did I want to do? I have a SQLite script. What I want to do is, man, do I want to do this? Sorry, I'm trying to make a decision here. I was about to make it so that when I start the application, it goes and runs this, but like, that's probably not what I want, because we're gonna lose the persistence every time we start it up. It's gonna go blow it away. So, I don't even have a SQLite viewer, do I? No, I don't. What's a good way to run this? Let's see. Oh, I've never even noticed that they have a create file method. I was like, what's going on here? Um, connection string, and that was just going to be yes, I never finished my thoughts on var. I use var all the time. I have never found that var makes it harder for me to read and understand code at all. Um, I get that if you're like, it makes it hard for me to read and understand code, then yeah, like don't use it. Like, I get it. But I don't have that issue. I never have. And then people go, well, I can't tell what the type is, and I'm like, one of the big arguments I hear is, oh, well, yeah, in Visual Studio you can tell, but if I have to look at it in like a pull request or in a code review, like I can't tell what the type is. And I'm like, well, I don't understand why that matters to you. Like, you can see how it's being used or not. So like, why does knowing the type matter at that point? I don't know. I just find it kind of fascinating. It's never been an issue for me. However, what I've started doing is, you'll notice like this. Now that we can have this kind of syntax, I like doing this. I get rid of var altogether because I can put the type on the left here and just say new, instead of having it be redundant and say new SQLite connection equals, instead of SQLite connection equals new SQLite connection. Like, you already know what the type is. Why are we repeating it? So I like this, but you'll notice when I call stuff like up here, it's var. I don't care. It doesn't really bother me. So anyway, that's my stance. I'm sticking to it. Okay, this is gonna be what we call disgusting. Boop. There we go. There's a bunch of SQLite. Why doesn't it like it? Oh, we'll hide that. Nice. Today I'm migrating a React.js project over to TypeScript. Cool. Well, lurk away. Thanks for joining. Um, this is me just kind of putzing around trying to figure stuff out. So thanks for checking it out. So what I'm gonna comment this code out after. We're gonna run it once and see if it is happy. Because once we have it with the data source, we don't have to go rerun this. So let's go find out. I should put a using. Oh, nice. So it worked. And what I was saying earlier was, by it worked, I mean it doesn't crash when it starts up. So that's cool. Okay. Oh, that's not what I wanted to see. Let's use a different commenting type here. Then I can collapse that. Gross. Okay, so we have quartz. So look at your brain go, yeah, it's doing something. It's doing something, that's for sure. So let's go see if we can make a job. Actually, you know what? Maybe we can check out what they have going on here. Oh, they actually had more stuff there. Tutorials, jobs and triggers. I'm not sure if other folks that are on stream have used Quartz before. I found some of the stuff a little bit confusing the first time I went through it. Like, if we, again, there's answers to this stuff and we can figure them out. But when I read this code here, trigger builder create. So I like the fluent syntax and everything, but with identity group, I'm like, there's already two names there that I'm like, I don't really know. For job, job name, job group, I have 4 names that I have to go define. And like, that makes me like nervous. They talk here about why jobs and triggers. Like, I think the idea of a trigger and a job makes sense to decouple them. I like that logic, but this whole thing of like, um, I don't know, like, I don't know what the right values need to be for this kind of stuff. Like, what is a group? That's, I think, the part that's throwing me off. It's like, okay, maybe this is again me not reading things. So the keys of jobs and triggers allow them to be placed into groups, which can be useful for organizing your jobs and triggers into categories. Okay. So it's just it truly just is, as you might expect, a group. So if we wanted to say, and this is like, how do you name a trigger? Like, that seems kind of like this part right here just seems weird that I have to go name the trigger. But if we wanted to call it test jobs, this is a simple schedule. I don't know if I want to schedule. Is there anything else with calendar interval? So you can see this one's like repeat count with interval. And maybe I do want a, oops. It's entirely possible that I might want a simple schedule. I don't know yet. I just want to like basically queue something and fire it off at some point in time. So that might be what I want. Oh, start at. Okay, I think that's actually what I want. I'm going to start it 10 seconds. But here's the weird thing, like, where do I define the job? I don't know what this does. Like, where's the body of the job? Let me go back to my blog article here. So, job detail. Let me copy this stuff. So, scheduler, this is the job trigger. I'm going to get rid of this code. Job builder. Okay, maybe what we can do is something like this. Oops. So what I'm thinking is I think I have to go make a job class, which is fine. So we'll do sealed class, our test job, job detail. I guess it's a job detail is what we want. And what goes into this? Oh, I really don't think that's what we want. That seems suspicious. That seems like a lot of code to go do that. Just iJob. And then okay, so I think what I needed to do, I was getting a little confused there. I think here, this is making a job detail out of a job. So, and if I'm not mistaken, I think that these don't work with dependency injection and stuff like that. I think they end up getting serialized, I think, or maybe not. Maybe what they're doing is they're serializing the type information, and that way they can go use reflection to go look them up or something. But I think this information, this job detail stuff gets, this part gets written to the database is my guess. With identity, job key. So I think if I need to do that, this job key is hello world. Well, here's what I don't know. Like, is the job key both? I don't know. Like, this is what I don't like this stuff. It's making me, like, I feel like I'm going to use the wrong thing here. Set the identity for the job, which should be fired by the produce trigger. A job key will be produced with the type, name, and group. Okay, but how do they get combined? Like, is it a dash? I think I had it in my blog post, but let's see. Yeah, dash trigger. But that's to name the trigger, so no. So I have no idea if that's what it wants. Kind of annoying. Because, like, what I'm nervous about is I'm going to go set this up, and then I've somehow configured the thing to be the wrong name, and then it doesn't go fire. So, but this one here, I didn't even have for a job on it. Right? It doesn't have that at all. And maybe I don't need that either. If you go to schedule the job like this is what I had in my previous code that was working. And I wonder if that makes it okay. But then I lose the job group. It's annoying. I don't know. How do they schedule stuff? They don't? They just build these. Very interesting. Sorry if maybe I'm not doing as good of a job with my stream of consciousness here, but the part that's bothering me is this line I had from my, like, a blog article I wrote where we would schedule the job this way. Okay, so they don't even have that in theirs. They're just making a job trigger. And they say for job like this. Like, they have this up here, but this is their example basically. They don't they don't call a scheduler to go schedule it. So I don't know. Did I must have accidentally deleted some code. Yeah, I accidentally deleted the start at. Oops. Okay, let me put that back. So if we don't have the scheduled job, it makes me wonder, like, do I need to have... Oh, there's an overload. Oh, man. Okay. Okay, Nick. And I bet you up here there's an overload. I can use a job key. I bet you. And there is. So all of this time I'm getting frustrated with this. It's like it's not actually... It's not their fault. It's just me being dumb, which is okay. At least I'm doing it live in front of all of you. So let me just kind of reiterate what was throwing me off and why this is way better now. Previously, when we were looking at the code on line 227 for job, This was taking in two parameters. It was taking a name and a group. And then down here, we were just taking in this job key, and the job key was just defined with a name. So I'm going, how the heck can we have that? Like, don't we need a group? Like, by definition, don't we also need a group? But it turns out you can change the job key to be defined with both the name and the group, which is good. And then we can actually use the job key in both spots. So now, if we think about their code, right, their code did not call the scheduler at all. And that might be totally fine. Maybe this before was an explicit way to combine those things, and we don't have to do it, because if we do this and we build these things, maybe it will just go work. So now I think context. Can we key in? How do we get stuff out? Apparently not that way. Get. So this is the weird part that I was saying. There's no dependency injection, right? So we'll do that. And then console write line message. Oh. Sure. We don't have any asynchronous code, so it doesn't really matter for us. But I'm going to put a breakpoint here. Let's change this to be 5 seconds. So I'm really hoping that, again, if I just do this, I feel like it's not going to work. I feel like there's no way that without calling this line, it's going to work, but we'll find out. So if we wait 5 seconds, we should hit this breakpoint. And we might as well try it and see. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nope. But if we go put this in now. One, 2, 3. Oh, it works. Very cool. Okay, that's interesting. Now, here's the funny part. I haven't verified any of the persistent storage stuff, and I realize I don't have a SQLite viewer on my computer. And maybe a couple options. Maybe I go get one. SQLite expert. Is that what it's called? This one at the digital forensics company I used to work at, we use this one a lot, SQLite expert. And it's funny because it's called SQLite expert, but there's like a personal and professional version, which is funny just because the name I always thought was interesting. Like, you're downloading SQLite expert, but it's like SQLite expert professional or personal, right? It's a trial. This one's a freeware. I think the expert throws it off for me. It's expert and personal, so we'll get that. What I'm thinking about doing, just to explain my thought process again, is I'm going to set this trigger to be like, whatever, a couple minutes out, and then we'll go check the SQLite tables. The other thing I was thinking of doing, if I wasn't going to go download that, was to basically go write SQLite code and just do a query. But I don't want to, then I have to go read what the table schemas are, and I'd rather just poke around. So let's do that. No start menu. Actually, do want start menu. I don't want, yeah, expert and professional is redundant. Thank you. That's always what I thought. Oh, and sorry, Mr. Buttons, I didn't realize, I didn't see your question right before that. What I'm working on is integrating Quartz.net and SQLite. Oh man, this window is very big and bright. And the context is that I have an application that I want to build in. I want to build in job scheduling with persistence. And I've used quartz.net before, but basically only to set up like kind of fire and forget or like scheduling jobs that fire at like a cron interval, but not something where I could persist it. So my idea is that I, instead of going to refactor that application and go build it all in, I said, let me go make sure I can understand how this works. Let me go see if I can make it happen. And if so, and I'm happy with it, then I'll go refactor the application to bring in quartz.net. So that's been the thought process. Open database. I always feel weird like navigate. Not that I have anything secret, but weird navigating my file folder structure and sharing my screen. So, okay, job details, fire triggers. Interesting. If we go look at this, oh man, I'm so used to using MySQL Workbench. Is there no way to go? Oh, data right there. Nice. It's funny though. I canceled the or I stopped running the application. Sorry if the text is really small and I realize it might be cut off. So let me move this over. I stopped ASP.NET Core while the job was running. So if we look at the state here, it says executing still. That's peculiar. Let's go. I have it set to be 60 seconds. Let's go run it again. It's running now. What? Okay, well that's not good. That's definitely not good. Why is that happening? Oh wait, am I going crazy? Didn't I have it set to 60? Ah, I was reading up here. Sorry. There we go. Come on, Nick, get it together. I thought we were waiting 60 seconds, so my apologies. Now we have 60 seconds. Let's go see what's up. So it cleared the fired triggers. Job details, scheduler state. There's our list of triggers, but interesting. The fired triggers go away. Yeah, applications so fast as 60 seconds in 5. That's what I thought was happening, but it turns out in typical Nick fashion, I'm just really bad at reading, so so we're waiting the full 60 seconds here. Sorry, folks. I just wanted to poke around and see what we have in here, right? So the simple triggers table does have our test trigger, so that's cool. This has all of them. Nothing's paused. Okay, so the job is executing currently. So that means if we go to job details, do we see anything interesting? I don't think that this one's going to show anything interesting, but I think kind of as I was speculating, there's the type name information written out. Fired triggers. So this is while it's running. Job name is called Hello World, right? It's executing. We can see that. So if I go continue the application now and we let this run, now the fired triggers part is cleared again. Job details, and this is what I wanted to see, right? I wanted to kind of prove that when we queue up a job, that we see it inside of the job details. And I wanted to see the behavior between, or I guess the relationship and behavior with these two tables. So job details is empty now because we don't have a scheduled job. And really that means like now I understand the use case for this table is once we schedule a job, it shows up in here. I mean, that's kind of what I expected, but I just wanted to kind of see it happen. And the fired triggers one is not a... I think the way that I need to look at this is that it's not some type of history. if that makes sense. It's not a history because it's cleared again. And I don't know if there is like an overall history one. It kind of seems like not. Like as I go through these tables, like the whole database is empty now, which is probably fine. But again, the whole context here is I need to think about the application I'm building. Let me go back to full camera so I can talk with my hands. Hey, thanks, Mr. Buttons. Work, I get it. I got to work in an hour, so I still got a little bit of time. Good to see you, though. Thanks. So the application that I'm building, I will need some type of like history, I guess. I do need to make sure that I can like keep track of everything that's going on over time. So I'm saying this out loud because it means that I can't purely rely on Quartz for that. Quartz is going to be, it looks like it's going to be very helpful for me getting the job set up. It's going to be persisted. That means I can kill off the app. And maybe that's a good experiment we can try next is I'm going to start it. I'm going to start up Quartz. It's going to have a 60-second time window. I'm going to stop it once it's queued, and then what I'm going to do is comment out the code that schedules another job, and we should see that it runs again. So that's the next one. So I did see a similar project based on MS Orleans for scheduling tasks. I completely forgot about Quartz. I actually haven't used Orleans at all. I keep hearing the name, and I just like haven't spent time looking into it or anything like that. It's unfortunate. It's like there's so many things. Like even Aspire is something in our so the project. I should just be transparent. The project I'm talking about is what I'm building. This product called Brand Ghost. So if you're interested in kind of seeing that, it's I'll just put a link in the chat. Oops, I can't type. So this is the thing that I'm building, and I need scheduling put into it. So I'm going to be using Quartz for it. But yeah, even for Brand Ghost, like we're using Aspire, and it was like I've been hearing about Aspire. I've been seeing David Fowler talk about it. It's like it seems really cool, but like I haven't had a use for it, and we kind of retroactively fit it into Brand Ghost, and I can. What's a good way to put this? It's almost like I couldn't see the value until we started to do some stuff in Azure where the one guy on our team that's like really good with Aspire and sort of like cloud architecture and things like that, he was pointing out to me like, hey, go run this command line stuff for Aspire, and it's like some Azure command line stuff, and basically I wish I would have started this way, but it was like running one command on the command line, and from there it went and set up all the Azure resources. And I was like, that's the value. I see it now. I've been trying to figure out like why it's valuable, how it's helpful. Don't get me wrong. I'm sold when someone says you don't have to go use YAML files. Like, yep, sign me up. I hate YAML files. So it makes sense if I can do it all in C#. That's cool. But I didn't get to see how it all came together until I ran that stuff on the command line and then watched it printing out like, hey, I'm setting up these resources. And I was like, oh man, like there it is. So yeah, MS Orleans I have not looked at, but there's all this cool stuff. Like I just wish I had more time for it because my day job, I mean, I'm an engineering manager, so I'm not coding at work, but my day job doesn't afford me the opportunity to see some of these things. So I kind of have to, do it in my spare time, which is totally fine because I like coding in my spare time. But now that I'm building, like, so Brand Ghost is the thing I'm building outside of work. And like, if Brand Ghost doesn't need MS Orleans, I'm never going to see MS Orleans. It's the exact reason I haven't had a chance to go into Maui. I haven't had to build anything, that would leverage Maui. So I just am not getting to use it, but I really want to go try it out. So, only got so much time in the day. Let's go back to the code here. what I'm going to do is what I said, where this is set for 60 seconds. So once we see the window pop up, so you can see, right? I'm going to stop it, comment this out, and because that job is supposed to be persisted to the database, we should see it's running again. We should be able to see that it's in here, right? We have this job detail here, simple trigger here. And I know I set it for 60 seconds, so you got to bear with me for 60 seconds, but I'm thinking we should see this, and it's really cool because it proves that the job was persisted and it's going to execute after. This is what I need to be able to do. Again, context here is for Brand Ghost. Brand Ghost is helping to schedule social media content. And the issue that I want to work around, there we go, perfect, it works, is if I need to schedule something and our server has to go down because we're deploying or something, I don't want to lose that state. So this is perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to see, that we can basically tear down the app, right? It doesn't have to run. We can stop it, and I guess that's why the Misfire thing comes up too, right? So if we're thinking about the Misfire part, what could be very interesting is that, let's take I'm going to go back to here. I like talking with my hands. So if we're thinking about the scenario I just gave, so let's say I needed to go post something on social media and I'm using a job for that. It's now written into the persisted store and it's scheduled to be 5 seconds from now, 10 seconds, for a minute from now, whatever. If during that time I go, hey, like, because I'm not looking at all these scheduled things, like I'm developing more stuff and I need to go push a new build up and it's deploying. If that job was scheduled, let's pick something right in the middle of everything I said. It's 30 seconds from now. And within that 30-second window, I start a new deployment, and it's going to take me, just make up a number, it's going to take 5 minutes to go deploy. And sorry, that's maybe kind of confusing because the whole deployment time might take 5 minutes from the start to finish, but the time that the application is like torn down and stood back up, if that window was overlapping the period, the Misfire period, right? So we go from being 30 seconds out, maybe by the time it's restored, it's 2 minutes after it was supposed to run. I think that's when the Misfire thing is gonna say, like, and I don't know where that's gonna go. Is that like a table? I'm not sharing my screen, so sorry. I don't know where that gets logged or recorded. And it's the tooltip says, and thus have the Misfire instruction applied. So maybe I'm just gonna go. I haven't shared my screen yet. I just want to search for Misfire on their docs to see if it's there. Their their documentation doesn't have the word Misfire anywhere. Oh, come on. Did we all see that? It went from having no results and then it showed up as soon as I said that. Now I look like a jerk. Okay, so it's funny, the stream's a little bit delayed on some of the other screens I have, and I got to watch it. So yeah, it said there was no results, but now we do see it, so that's good. Symbol trigger. So I want to understand more about this. These instructions are defined as constant on Misfire. Documentation for simple trigger. When building, you specify the Misfire instructions as part of the simple schedule. with misfire handling instruction next with existing count. What? That seems very confusing. Okay, another important property of a trigger is its misfire instruction. A misfire occurs, a trigger misses its firing time. Okay, so that makes sense. Or because there's no available threads, sure. By default, they use a smart policy instruction, which has dynamic behavior based on the trigger type and configuration. Okay, so when the scheduler starts, it searches for any persistent triggers that have misfired. Right, so it's looking for ones that are like, hey, like we're out of basically like their SLA for firing, like we didn't get to go, and then updates each of them based on their individually configured misfire instructions. So when you start using Course.net, you should make yourself familiar with the misfire instructions. But I get it, man, but like, tell me more. Okay, let's see. I wonder if on here, on the trigger, was it on the trigger or on the job? Really? Okay. I thought, yeah, it's on the trigger. It has a misfire instruction, so that's weird. Simple trigger misfire instructions. Okay. Interesting. But is anyone else looking at this documentation and feeling like it's leaving a lot to be desired? One-off job. You can run the simplest job this way. Tip. Misfire mode smart. What? What does what does any of this that I just read mean? I get it. It could just be me here, but like, come on. How do we make a simple trigger? That's not what I searched. Yeah, okay, simple trigger. How do I do it? This feels gross. Oh, trigger builder creates simple trigger by default. Actually, an I trigger is returned. Sorry, this is my head is cutting it off. This is a kind of a gross API though, so it apparently is a simple trigger behind the scenes. But how do we do the misfire part? So I think you need with this. So do you only have misfire stuff with a schedule? Because I don't have that ability with this. So if we're looking at with a simple schedule, right? As an example. Oh, sorry, let me move this back. There's not a lot of screen real estate. Okay. So what I'm wondering is There we go. There's all the misfire stuff. This tooltip is way off my screen, and it's like hiding behind my camera. So it's interesting. These the tooltips on these are pretty bad, or I guess it's like the HTML documentation, XML documentation. My goodness. The the tip here says if the trigger misfires, use this simple trigger fire now instruction. But like, what? Tell me what it does. Tell me what it does. I need to understand them. I think I could guess at that one. I'm assuming if it misfires and the scheduler starts back up, it will just go refire it, ignore misfires. That's interesting. The next with existing count, next with remaining count. Like, I don't know what these ones mean. But maybe they're more advanced. I think for me, I have to consider fire now or ignore misfires, but also I don't have a schedule. So I'm very curious what the misfire behavior is for something like this, right? We could try it. How do I do this? I gotta... Let's do this. Okay, with misfire threshold, this is gonna be... It's gonna be something. Let's do... We'll have 5 seconds. And I have... Yeah, this should work. I'm going to set this to go fire off in 5 seconds, but I'm going to stop the application. And then as long as I wait 10 seconds before starting it again, we should see what the misfire behavior is. So let me start it. Come on. You can do it. Okay, so now I have to wait 10 seconds. And what I'll do in the meantime is comment out this. And what I'm hoping to see here is that I should explain this a little bit further, right? So I said I want to fire this thing off in 5 seconds. And it's going to be longer than 5 seconds by the time I go restart this app. If we go check the database, right, we can see that there's a job in there. Let's refresh this to prove it. All right, so we have this job in here. Why is this trigger here? That's weird. Oh, acquired. Interesting. Okay, so we have this job detail in here. It's been far more than 10 seconds now. So when we start the app, is it just going to go fire because it's outside of that threshold, or is it going to have some weird behavior? Let's find out. So it fires right away, which is interesting. Now, if we check the scheduled fire time, sorry, I'm kind of exploring this for the first time. I was curious to see if it would tell us like when it was supposed to be run versus when it's actually running. And I don't know if we get to see that, because the timestamps are the same. The fire time and the scheduled, or was it scheduled fire time? I thought the scheduled fire time would be a different number. That's interesting. Okay. Well, I mean, it's good. Like, I need to understand this behavior, right? So again, context is if I have to schedule a post and it's supposed to go at a certain time, I'm assuming I probably try to think if there's a scenario where I don't want it to actually post. It's like, hey, you missed the time window. Don't. And it seems like if I need to be able to say that, I'm not getting that built in here, at least for these ones that are like go run them in 5 seconds from now. Now, if we change how that looks though, so instead of saying start at with simple schedule, what are the options here? So with repeat count, if I don't want to repeat, so no. So you can give it a cron expression. Come on. And there's some misfiring here as well. So I'm trying to see if there's a different way that I can define these. I saw calendar. That's interesting. Calendar interval schedule. Wow. A lot of options there. So my point is that, like, I was trying to see if instead of saying, 5 seconds from now, that I could say, like, run it at this time. But I guess that's what's happening. That's what this was. Again, this is Nick not reading properly. This always was started at a certain time, and I was hyper focused on 5 seconds from now, but it's because it is giving it a solid time. So I think this is what I want, which is good. I feel pretty confident about how I'm going to go implement this. I'm super curious about the mass transit part, so that might be something I want to follow up with. But yeah, I might wrap up the stream there because I can start to feel the fever a little bit. I'm getting a little bit glistening, and I think it's because not just the lights that are on me, but I think it's because my Advil's probably wearing off. But yeah, no, this for me, this was super productive. I'm glad you got to see me struggle through looking at the courts documentation. This part, I think this job key was probably the most sort of confusing part, but I didn't realize the overloads that we had available, so that was really good. This part ended up being way better than I thought. I thought I was going to get stuck having to use XML configuration, like these, or not even XML, like some weird config file that seemed to be key value pairs, whole custom file. So I'm glad we didn't have to do that. And no problem, Jack. I try to do these on Tuesday mornings, and for me, it's good. I get to kind of practice, forces me to code some stuff, so that's good. And the other thing that's kind of fun is that, well, two things. One is that it's kind of like pair programming, right? Sometimes in chat, people are like, hey, like, you're obviously missing this thing, like, go do this. And it's like, thank you so much. And the other thing too is, like, you get to kind of see, like, this is real, right? I've been programming for 21 years, and I know there's, especially like on LinkedIn, where there's more junior folks that are, they're trying to break into industry and stuff. And I just want to be able to demonstrate that even as someone who's been programming for a long time, like, I mess up all of the time. All the time. It's totally normal. You can still get stuff done. It's especially helpful if you can read, though, apparently. I'm not great at that. So, yeah, I think it's good for me to be able to do. I enjoy it, so kind of cool. But I do think that I am going to get ready to go with Quartz in my application. I can see how it's going to tie in nicely now. And I'm excited for that. So, thanks, folks. Sorry for ending a little bit shorter. I like to go for about 2 hours, but I think I got to be realistic with myself here. So, thanks again. We'll see you next time. Take care.